and welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your go-to destination for exclusive insights into the journeys of remarkable individuals that are shaping our financial world today. Now, I'm your host, Prosper Tarovinga, and today, in this particular episode, we're going to be diving into the world of financial empowerment with none other than Lexi Smith, the founder of MoneyVine. Now, Lexi, how are you doing today?
I am good. I'm enjoying this adult conversation because after this, I get to pick up the kids from school.
Fantastic. I mean, it's one of those things that, you are an adult for a minute, and then before you know it, you're talking about Bluey or singing Old McDonald's with the kids, and you wonder how that distinction actually happened. But don't you worry, we are all going to be needing this conversation after we're done with it so that we can actually enjoy time with the kids. So I can't wait to dive into this with you, Lexi. Now, for those that are watching right now, Lexi has spent a decade in financial advising, and now she's realized that helping the wealthy get wealthier wasn't actually fulfilling her own purpose. So she also encountered a bit of a family tragedy at the birth of her second child, which then led her to reevaluate her own path. And when she faced the possibility of a shortened lifespan due to genetic factors, she actually chose to focus on what truly mattered, which is empowering everyday individuals to take control of their own financial futures. So through MoneyVine, Lexi offers personalized financial coaching where she helps individuals and couples gain clarity and confidence in managing their finances. And her approach is practical, non-judgmental, and is actually tailored to each client's unique situation. So whether it's through one-on-one coaching sessions or engaging in corporate workshops, Lexi has dedicated to improving the financial well-being of people across Australia. Now, Lexi, I could go on and talk about things that I'm not even qualified, to even start talking about. Let us know a little bit about how you got into financial advising as a career in and of itself.
It goes back to my childhood, actually. I'm an only child, and what comes with that is a lot of conversations with my parents because there was not anyone else to talk to in the household. And so my parents spoke to me a lot about what was going on in their lives, which included money, because money touches every aspect of your life. And so through that, I had a really good grasp of the money world and how you made money and what things cost, and I had goals, and so that started from a very young age. And as I was growing up, I was starting to think about the future and what I would do after school. And I noticed the people around me, if they got money from their part-time role, at McDonald's or Woolworths, Subway, wherever it was, they would spend it all and I would save it all, within reason, of course. But that then led to me looking at what opportunities there were out there, and I stumbled across financial advice, and it really sounded exactly like what I wanted to do. And so I went to uni and I studied financial advice, and I became an advisor, and I worked in that space for 10 years. But then we're going to talk a lot about this today, but I realized that what I thought I was getting myself into with financial advice was actually quite different to what financial advice actually is in Australia. So that, I think that answers your initial question anyway.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for opening us up to that. Now, you did mention, obviously, growing up as an only child. That obviously put you in a position to have those conversations with your parents. Now, did that lead you to maybe mature faster than all the other kids that were around you because you literally had to do or have adult conversations at such an early age?
I do remember actually overhearing a comment from one of someone that my mum was speaking to at the time, and basically said, like, she's a kid, like, let her be a kid. Don't talk to her about that stuff. But I am so, so thankful at this point in my life that those conversations were had with me, and I wasn't just seen as a child who didn't understand or didn't need to know those things, because it meant that I was able to accelerate a lot faster through those big life things that happen, like buying my first house. I understood what things like stamp duty were and how loans worked and mortgage repayments. I understood all of that because it was just something we spoke about as you would anything about the weather. It's just you spoke about money, which I do notice with a lot of the clients that I have now. Money wasn't necessarily spoken about much growing up. And so I definitely am thankful for those conversations, and I encourage my clients to have these conversations with their children. It doesn't necessarily have to be really deep or on a certain topic or anything, but just trying to be open and share your experience so that your kids can learn and understand and benefit from that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for that. Now, when you were growing up, obviously the other kids around you had no concept on money. Like you said, they would spend it all, yet you would save your sort of money. What sort of conversations were they having, especially with you, or how would they treat you, especially when you would not be spending? Because I can only imagine other kids will be out there, you know, with their Happy Meals, and you probably just sitting there. Is there some sort of backlash that came because of that, and because they didn't understand, or any peer pressure that would have?
Not that I remember. I think the conversations that I do remember probably started when in early adulthood, when I wanted to do some travel, and I kind of said to a couple of friends, how about we go to the USA and do a road trip, and like kind of not let's leave next week, but like, I'm ready, like whenever you want to go, let's go, I've got the money. And they're like, well, I got to save for it, or I've got to get a credit card or something. And I'm like, oh, like, couldn't you have thought of this 5 years ago when I was thinking about it? But it just wasn't on their radar. And so whilst that was applicable then, it's kind of always applicable in life, because I am the type of person that whilst I will save money, I can do things at the drop of a hat because I've been saving, whereas other people are just kind of going along, and then something happens and they can't do that thing or get out of that situation perhaps that they're in. Maybe it's a role that they really hate. They can't just quit because they don't have that foundation that's supporting them through that. Mm-hmm. So this is tying into kind of why I do what I do now, and it's through my own experience and the experience of others around me that's led to this point today.
I absolutely love that. Now, Lexi, you're absolutely right. And there's stats and there's information around that, you know, don't quote me, but it says quite a lot of people in Australia would not be able to survive a $1,000 emergency if it, you know, showed up. So maybe a car problem or maybe a health sort of issue or things of that nature, because they haven't been put in a position to have that sort of financial backing to sustain them. Now, when you then finished university, you started working in the financial sector and things of that nature. What sort of roles were you undertaking at that particular time that, you know, were the ones that you started off doing?
So in financial advice, you would typically start as a client service officer or an admin officer, and then you kind of work your way up through the ranks, like in many industries, moving into more of a paraplanning role or an associate advisor role before moving into a financial advisor role.
So in those roles that you were taking, were there any favorites? Like, you know, were there any sort of roles that you were like, oh my God, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life if I'm given an opportunity?
The eye was always on the prize of actually being in that financial advisor role. But when I got there, I guess I was good at it and I enjoyed it, but it's very focused on insurance and investing and superannuation, which are all very important. But something that I noticed that I love to focus on that I don't think was done enough is cash flow and the everyday money management side of things. And so I was finding myself leaning quite heavily into that, but it's quite time consuming and not necessarily the best use of a financial advisor's time. And so that's what kind of partly led to this transition to financial coaching, which is more based on the everyday money management side of things and goal setting and accountability, as opposed to financial advice, which is more, as I said, insurance, investing, and superannuation.
Absolutely. And the kind of people that you would come into contact with, were they ordinary people who would meet on the street, or were these actually high income earners that you were being exposed to all the time?
Well, financial advice is becoming increasingly expensive in Australia for a few different reasons, but it typically is most suited to those who are high income earners, or maybe have received an inheritance and have a lump sum of money to invest, or approaching retirement, or are in retirement. And so it's a really, really valuable service for so many people. But then there's a lot of people who aren't necessarily well suited to traditional financial advice. And this is, again, where financial coaching is filling that gap that existed in the market for such a long time.
Absolutely. You see, now, with my understanding, so many people have not had this financial education growing up, and they wouldn't even know sort of where to start. Is there a big barrier to entry for people to actually start seeking services like this, or just as long as somebody has a bank account?
So in Australia, there are 3 main types of services that you can talk to someone about money. So we've got financial advice, which was my background. The cost of advice these days starts at around $3,000 and goes up from there. You've also got financial counselling, which is a completely free service in Australia. It's offered by organisations such as the Salvation Army. That has eligibility criteria, though. So if you're receiving Centrelink benefits, you are eligible. If you are at imminent risk of not being able to pay a bill, you may be eligible. If you've experienced domestic violence, you may be eligible. And so this service is often for those who are drowning in debt and can't see a way out, and they're really, really struggling. And so there are licensed financial counsellors that can help someone through that. So we've got the free service that's for people that are really, really struggling. And then we've got the expensive service for those who are doing pretty well and maybe high income earners. But then there's this huge gap for the everyday Australians, the ones who they're earning pretty good money. Maybe they're living week to week still. They've got goals. They want to talk to someone about money, but they're not eligible for financial counselling and they're not ready for financial advice. And that's where financial coaching comes into it.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, you've worked across the whole sort of spectrum, and everybody, maybe a lot of the people that are listening and watching this are quite familiar with the first 2 ranks, the coaching and the actual counseling. And then the advice is something that is usually just reserved for those that are wealthy and, as you have said, have inherited some sort of a inheritance, or fallen into money or something like that. What do those people have for breakfast?
The people that are probably wheat bix. I don't know. I was not expecting that question today, Prosper. I think that they are pretty normal people. It's just that their financial situations are different.
Yeah, well, it must be something in their water that, makes them all Mr. Moneybags and things of that nature. But you've obviously had to experience this, and you've also had your own personal experiences with money, such as the financial journey that you were telling us of, you growing up in conversations like this. And, while you were working along this, you decided at some point you didn't want to go ahead and, keep giving advice to the wealthy. What changed it for you? There
were a few key things that happened. And in isolation probably wouldn't have pushed me to make a change, but I think the snowball effect of that, my whole office was made redundant. So that was kind of one of the pushes that I needed. Yeah, sure, I could have continued my journey in financial advice, but also my half brother passed away in his 40s. That then led to some genetic testing for myself because it was unexpected and premature, and a similar thing had happened to my grandfather many years prior, and on the same side of the family as well. So there was this period of time where I was waiting for these genetic tests for the results, where there was the chance that I may also only live into my 40s. So when someone turns around and says, you might only live another 10 years, you want that 10 years to, you want to enjoy every day, don't you? You should enjoy every day anyway. But when we think we have 70 years, maybe we don't approach things the same way as when we only think we have 10 years. So that was kind of that wake-up call. And everyone's wake-up calls seem to be different. I've got a friend who was just recently in a car accident and walked away from it, but kind of thought like, oh, I need to pull my finger out and do what I love doing each and every day. And so looking at people's transactions, working out where they spend their money, helping them improve things, seeing the impact that can have on their life, on their mental health, all of that stuff. That's what I love. And so that just wasn't really what I was being exposed to in financial advice. It was more about the investments, the super, the insurance. So now I get to do what I love every single day.
Absolutely. And congratulations for choosing yourself. Because so many people never really get past that decision point to actually action on it. But you're coming from a place where, you walk into the office, the copier is stacked with papers, the staplers have staples in them, somebody has cleaned your desk and there's milk in the fridge, and to come to start on your own where you're the janitor, you're the salesperson, you're the website person, you're the marketer, and you're also the advisor, the coach, and the counselor all at the same time. What was it like when you got started?
A roller coaster, and it still to this day is a bit of a roller coaster. And I don't think until you have been in that position of trying to create and scale a small business that you would ever really understand. You have to, you don't really understand having kids until you have kids. It's one of those types of experiences. So I remember my very first day that, I'd registered my ABN and I was kind of open for business, and I didn't have any clients. So what was I going to do? And I actually decided to go to YouTube University, and I learned how to build a WordPress website because I enjoyed it. So yeah, probably not the best use of my time. But my thing at that point, and still to this day, with, some exceptions, is if I'm enjoying it, then I'm going to do it. Even if it isn't the best use of my time, the most important thing to me is that I'm having a great time. As long as all my other things are taken care of. And, it's just such an important part of my everyday. It's almost like I don't know what the word is. This is going to irritate me. Not the checklist, but like the check of like, should I be doing this? And for other people, it might be, does it generate X amount of revenue, or whatever it might be. Mine is, do I love doing it? Do I want to do it? If the answers are yes, then I'm going to do it. Rightly or wrongly.
Nah, you see, that's the best way, because what's the whole point in having to undergo creating something like this if you're not even enjoying the process along the way? So you opted for the name MoneyVine. To me, a vine represents a bush or some sort of grape produce tree looking ensemble. How did you come up with that name?
Good question. I was thinking about it for 7 years. I remember on my honeymoon, I wanted to move into financial coaching, though I didn't know what it was called then. It didn't really exist in Australia. So in the back of my mind all the time, I was thinking, if I had a business, what would I call it? And then one day I was just driving and I was like, that's it, MoneyVine. And it came from, because people are always told money doesn't grow on trees. And so it grows on the MoneyVine. You know, if you speak to MoneyVine, then you can grow your MoneyVine, because money doesn't grow on trees. So it's that kind of reference there, play on words a little bit.
I like that. I like that, because half of the time when we get into these businesses, you know, that inspiration really keeps us going, and the attachment that we give to the name will be the thing that actually gets us to keep going to it. Now, 7 years is a long time to be, you know, thinking of doing a business and, you know, getting started. Was this name going to be put on something else, or were you actually thinking of an exit strategy from the work that you were doing for that time?
In terms of the name, it only came to me kind of on the day I registered the business, where I was like, I need to make a decision here. But the 7 years, I guess, I had only been in the industry a couple of years at that point, and, you know, just kind of, I was still enjoying it, but I always wanted to lean more into this cash flow side of things. And we are creatures of comfort, aren't we? And when you're good at what you do and you're getting paid well for what you do, you know, sometimes if nothing prompts you otherwise, you just keep doing that thing. And so I also went through a period of having my children. And so, you know, getting paid maternity leave was better than being self-employed and receiving no pay during maternity leave, of course. Always looking at things with a financial lens as well, and the impact of that. So, yeah, it was a little bit of timing, a little bit of things going on that finally pushed me to take that leap.
Absolutely. I like that. And there's always rules to this game. You know, one of them is never lose money. And if losing money means you not being employed at any particular juncture where you could be earning money, then, you know, you only stopping your own success in the future. So I'm glad you took that sort of route. Now, you've introduced children to this topic, and going from where you started, you used to have these conversations with parents, especially about money and stuff like that. How old are the kids at the moment?
5 and 8. So they're starting to have more and more of these conversations with me, which I love.
Absolutely. You see, I have a 6-year-old and a 10-year-old currently, and I can't even get them to eat breakfast. And maybe you can point me the direction as to what sort of conversations these 5-year-old and 8-year-olds can start understanding, especially when it comes to finances.
I have this conversation a lot with clients that are parents, and I think it's about reading the situation at the time. So there will be times where I'll bring up money with my kids and they are just so disinterested. They'll, you know, just not look at me, walk off, do something else, and you just leave it. You don't push it. But then there's other times where they'll start asking questions, and they'll want to know more. And you just kind of go for as long as it feels right. An example might be, we're driving to school one day. This is a couple of years ago. I think my daughter would have been 6 or 7. And I don't know why it popped into my head. I was probably thinking about a client of mine. And I said to the kids, particularly my daughter, my son was a bit young then, you know, some people own their house, but other people rent from other people. And so we spoke about that for a little bit. And then that led to me saying that a house was an appreciating asset, whereas a car was a depreciating asset. And I guarantee at that particular point in time, it kind of went all over her head. Like, it was too much, but at least at that point, she had heard those words, appreciating and depreciating asset, more than anyone else her age. And so the next time it came up, when I mentioned it again, she's like, oh yeah, I remember that. And now I can see that they have picked up on these conversations over time, little drips and drabs, because they said something to me the other day and they basically said, like, is that house rented? And so it's nice to kind of see the fruits of all your hard work paying off over time. So it's not that you need to talk about something specific or open a specific bank account or give them specific pocket money. It's about talking about money when you think about something. You might get an electricity bill, and if they're standing right next to you, you might mention something. If they seem interested, keep talking about it. If they don't push it. Just about, any conversation you had with your kids, teaching them about anything. Money should be no different.
So look, what I love about that is it not only makes you present in the whole conversation and situation of being with your kids. I obviously was just mentioning how, my kids, won't even want to have breakfast, even if it's there to save them or whatever it is. But we go cycling every Saturday and we're talking, obviously, things of that nature. And that's one thing for sure. And there's also one thing, my now 6-year-old, in her head, she has 5 episodes of a podcast that she keeps doing every time she walks into my office. And
I love this.
Monkey see, monkey do. All right.
Yeah.
So yeah. And whenever I'm calling her, I'm like, where are you? I can't find you. She's like, oh, you're disturbing me on my podcast. So for her, she's already understood the creativity side of things. So we need to be very careful, how we are showing up, especially in front of our kids. Now, how do you then help clients, especially most people in Australia earn really good money because obviously the minimum wage and things like that, but they still struggle to get ahead financially. And sometimes it baffles themselves knowing that they're probably earning 6 figures from their company, but they still living paycheck to paycheck.
I've even got clients earning over $500,000 a year who are in that exact situation. It doesn't necessarily matter how much you earn. It depends on where that money is going. And a lot of people just don't know where it's going. And one of the part of the journey of being a client of mine is I get to look at that and tell you exactly how much you spend every week on your groceries, exactly how much you spend eating out on average, on retail, on all of the different categories in your life. And there's always something that people are shocked about. I do this for myself as well. And each year we have a look at where our money's gone. And I have a conversation with my husband because we don't actually have a budget. A lot of people are surprised that a financial coach does not budget. But we are what you would describe as more mindful and intentional spenders. And so we have this check-in once a year. Were we happy with where our money went? Would we change anything? And this is the process that I go through with clients as well. And I'm not here to tell anyone how much to spend or what to spend their money on because everyone's values and priorities are going to be different. But it's about, this is the situation. Do you like it? If you don't, what would you like to change? What levers would you like to pull to make things look different? And then we can utilize that to break it down into like bite-sized steps of what they need to do to move from where they are today to where they want to be.
Absolutely. You see what I like about that, and I really like the fact that you've opened up the fact that you don't have a budget yourself. All right. I was enjoying the conversation we were having before we even started recording about, our reading habits. And I was now just thinking when you said that you let people open up their financial expenditure and things like that, that since you're a person that, as you have said, wouldn't like reading a physical book. And then if you would look at my expenditure on books, you will probably be judging me secretly and thinking this is just such a colossal waste of money. And how do you stop yourself from, being really that much involved, especially because people, like you say, are different?
I have never really found it to be a problem. I've had... So I hardly ever wear makeup anymore, and I spend very minimal in terms of like the hair and beauty category. And so I've got clients who will be spending between $10,000 and $15,000 a year on their hair and beauty. And so it might be nails, Botox, that kind of thing. Does not bother me one bit. I could not care less what these people spend in this area. It's about saying, this is where your money's going. If you want to go on that holiday, or whatever it is you want to do, where do you want to pull that money from? It's not up to me. If they choose to pull it from that category, awesome. They know how they can achieve their goal and I can hold them accountable to that. If they want to leave that category as it is, but pull it from somewhere else and they want to eat 2-minute noodles or whatever, I don't know, whatever it is, that's not on me. That's not my decision. So yeah, I don't know. I just completely remove myself from that. I'd probably say to you, have you gone to the library? And if you're like, no, I like the physical copy because I want to highlight, I'd be like, awesome. What book are you going to buy next? Like, it just doesn't impact me at all. And so I just don't really have an opinion, because I know that the amount of money I spend on kids' parties, you would probably fall on the floor. But that's what's important to me, and that's what I value. That's what I enjoy.
Absolutely.
We're all different.
Absolutely. Now, I've been to parties where parents hire out the whole play center, and it's like, wait a minute, what is going on here? You know, so I can attest to that.
I am one to invite 100 people to a 5th birthday party and spend 3 days making the cake myself, which is not the best use of my time, but I loved it, so I did it. Hire like 3-meter dinosaur costumes and spend weeks on Pinterest finding all the great ideas, and then spending way too much money on food, feeding everyone, having a great time, and would not change a thing. If you had to tell me I needed money for something, I would pull it from another category. I would not pull it from the kids' party category.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right. So each and every one of us has their own unique tastes and goals and things like that. But from that aspect alone, it does sound like you end up really helping people with their mindset, not just financially, because some of the things are also questionable. You know, you'd be like, come on, how many of these hummus bags are you gonna want to accumulate, and where is this going to end up? And it's just maybe a mindset of them having grown up without that, maybe you can then help with them. So what role does mindset play maybe in the financial side of things, and how do you address this in your coaching?
Yeah, mindset plays such a big part in so many things in life. Speaking of like, what do we do as adults? A prime example is when my dad cooks for my dad and my mum, 2 people, he will make enough food for like the whole street. So he won't invite the street, but like he will make a lot of food, too much food. He'll waste food. But that comes from his childhood where they didn't have a lot of food. And so we need to, if there is a problem with, what we're doing in terms of finances, if there is something like that, it can be really good to uncover where that came from and unpack that to be able to make the change. Coming back to mindset, a little bit off topic, but something that happened to me today. I am very conscious of the monkey see, monkey do, like we were talking about with your daughter. And so I didn't exercise for a long, long time as an adult because I never saw my parents exercise as a kid. They just work 7 days a week. And so now I do exercise and I actually enjoy it. Never thought I would say that. But I go somewhere where I can take my kids and they watch. They don't just sit there and watch me, but they are doing other things, playing with their toys, colouring in and watching us if they want to. And so they have now started doing like little exercise things at home and wanting to watch, exercise workouts and things and just being really interested in that kind of thing. So coming back to mindset now, a little bit off topic again, I have been petrified of box jumps. Do you know what a box jump is? Yeah? Yeah. So petrified. Have watched way too many reels where box jump fails, basically, have just avoided them. Anyway, I told myself today, you will get $1 million cash if you do a box jump. I did it straight away, no issue at all. And then I said to myself, okay, we're going to increase. I did 10 of them. Yeah, I'm comfortable with that. I put it up to a higher level. Okay, Lexi, another $1 million. You just have to do this higher box jump. And I did it without any trouble. But for probably 6 months now, I've just completely avoided them. I would just do step ups until I told myself, this is just a little trick that works for me, like getting into cold water. I tell myself, okay, $1 million, I'll do it. So mindset for me is really important, and mindset for a lot of other people is really important. Do you have something, a little mindset hack that you use for anything?
Oh, absolutely. See, for me, let's go back to reading. So I use
Yeah.
what we call the Pomodoro method
Oh,
of
yes.
reading, which is basically you set your timer for 30 minutes, but I set my timer for 25 minutes. All right. So I read for that 25-minute stretch, and then I afford myself 5 minutes to do whatever I want. So it's usually scrolling through my LinkedIn, looking at my emails, or just walking across and getting a cuddle from my little girls and things like that. And then I come back in again.
Yeah.
So
Another
that
25 minutes on repeat.
absolutely, you know what I mean? And if you count how many 25-minute slots you have throughout the day, it adds up. And there's days where I can read for about 4 hours a day. So it's one of those things. But I quite like how you motivate yourself by $1,000,000 and things of that nature.
And I never get that, obviously. A million for doing the bus jump, but I tell myself.
But it is a motivation sort of strategy and a tactic that you are absolutely utilizing and getting things done. Congratulations. It takes a redemptive amount of self-awareness to know the kind of things that really motivate you, because some people might not be motivated by that sort of money. But my question now is, you were having conversations with your parents. Were they making you do things with the promise of giving you money towards whatever it is that you wanted as an incentive for you to get things done? You know, like
no, not that I ever remember. Not at all.
So
and it's really interesting that you asked that, but yeah, no.
So where does this motivation then come from? Then the carrot that you're giving yourself to do this?
I think someone just suggested it a long time ago. You know, it was probably my mum. She probably said, obviously not having the $1,000,000 to give me, but say, tell yourself you got $1,000,000. And obviously it worked for me when I was younger, and I've just kind of continued it. I used to just use it for getting in the ocean or really cold water in winter, or, you know, because I'm a bit of a sook with cold. And then you realize, oh, it wasn't so bad. I actually enjoy this. And when you do something like that on repeat, it's like flexing a muscle, right? It just becomes easier. And so now I don't have to think too hard. I'm just like, $1,000,000, come on, just do it.
Absolutely. Now, Lexi, I'm just making a few calculations here.
How rich I am now?
No.
I'm a billionaire with all the $1,000,000 I've got doing box jumps.
How many things have you absolutely done? So if I would offer you $750,000,
no, won't do it.
It's just $1 million. It just has to. Would you read a complete book for $1 million?
Oh, maybe.
All right, cool. So for those that are watching right now, we're starting a fund. It's called the Lexi Reading Fund.
If everyone can contribute $1, I'll read a book. And for those that didn't hear that part of our conversation, because I don't think we were recording at that point, I was admiring all of Prosper's books and saying that I cannot physically force myself to sit down and read a book because I feel like there's so many other things I should be doing. But if I listen to a book, I can still clean up the kitchen or walk or drive or all the different things. And I feel it comes from wanting to be productive all the time, which is a whole nother story. But yeah, I think I could do it for $1 million.
Absolutely. Great, sir. You see, now this leads to the next part of the question, because obviously finances, or even though the basis are the same, you know what I mean? It's spend as little, spend little than you're earning, and make sure you save as much as you can. Some people ascribe to the 10% of your savings or your earnings and pay yourself first and things of that nature. But how do you then stay updated maybe with the latest in financial trends and ensure that your clients are actually receiving current and relevant advice, especially these days where maybe somebody wants to manage their own super fund and there's things that constantly change, or they want to start a trust for their family and there's constant changes in that sort of realm? How do you keep yourself across all of that?
I don't necessarily think there are a lot of changes to those fundamentals of being a human and, wanting things and needing things and managing our emotions and what we want in life and achieving our goals, like that kind of stuff doesn't really change. And so it's more about having conversations with people and helping them get clarity on where they currently stand from a financial point of view, where they want to be, and how they're going to get there. And so trying to take the overwhelm away, because a lot of people, not just with this topic, just with anything in life that's new to you or that feels like a really big job, we get so overwhelmed, we just dig our head in the sand and we do nothing, right? And so it's about working out what is that very next step for them, and holding them accountable to it. So in financial coaching, accountability can be a really big thing for people. Some people might just have one meeting to work out where they currently stand and get a bit of a plan moving forward. Other people want more hand holding, so we can have accountability meetings. So yeah, it's not necessarily about new trends or anything. It's about going back to basics sometimes.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Lexi, I mean, not all of us have been fortunate enough to have the parents that would give us a leg up in terms of being comfortable talking about money. Not all of us would have gone through, financial education and also working within the sort of sector to have an understanding of how money works and things of that nature. And not so many people would have the chutzpah, if that's the word for it, or a financial neck to actually really run their finances. Does this actually work on humans? I mean, the rest of us that just really want to go and watch football and subscribe to Netflix and just chill with popcorn while we're waiting for Uber Eats to arrive, in the meantime.
Most definitely. For anyone that decides like kind of I've had enough, I want more from a financial point of view, I want to be able, because money impacts every aspect of your life. Without money, you can't do a lot. You can't even get in the car and go and see a friend if you don't have the money to pay for the fuel or the Uber or whatever it is to get there, or the bicycle, or maybe they live really close and you can walk. But you understand what I'm saying, that money is really a big driver in what we do in life, isn't it? So if you have made the decision that there's things that I want to do and I can't do it because of a lack of money, when you get that fire in your belly and that drive to change things, there can be really great resources. There's so many great financial podcasts that you can listen to. They don't cost anything apart from your internet subscription, maybe. But there's places that you can start to build your knowledge. So it doesn't really matter what your situation is. If you have access to Spotify to listen to, the free Spotify version, to listen to podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, then you can really skyrocket your financial knowledge quite quickly. And so I would suggest for anyone starting there, maybe someone's eligible for financial counselling, free service. Maybe they want to take that next step to financial coaching. So there are options available. You just have to work out where you stand to work out who you should be talking to or what resource you should be looking at.
Absolutely. And if somebody is really keen on scoring an invite to your next kid's party or whatever it is that you're throwing, what would be the best way to maybe get a hold of you to find out, how to get started on their financial journey?
Yeah, I've got a booking form on my website, moneyvine.com.au. You can book free 15-minute chats on there. And yeah, maybe I'll go for 500 at the next party in September.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes below so that people can sort of get started. But before we sort of round up to this, I just wanted to find out, from you, because I don't think quite a lot of people were aware that financial coaching is an actual thing, especially here in Australia. What are some of the misconceptions about financial coaching that maybe people come across with, and how do you normally address them?
I don't necessarily think there are misconceptions. I just think there is a lack of understanding that it is a service that exists. There's not many of us around. My best guess would be maybe 20 to 30 financial coaches Australia-wide. And for our population, it's underserved. So I think you'll see a lot of development in this area. There are a lot of exit financial advisors moving into the financial coaching space. So yeah, having someone that you gel with, that you feel comfortable with, is probably the most important thing when you're looking for someone, because if you can't open up to someone and really share your desires and your potential flaws or whatever it might be that's running through your mind, then it's going to be hard to get that same kind of result. So yeah, it's really important that you feel a connection with whoever you choose to work with.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, you've gotten us into your world now, and we're really excited about what's coming up next. What are you working on that we should be on the lookout for? We've heard there's a party in September, but we're talking MoneyVine type stuff.
I'm
What's
doing a
next?
lot more financial wellbeing workshops in workplaces this year. So traveling interstate, which I love doing. I'm down in Sydney and Melbourne this month. So there's a lot of people out there that don't understand that financial coaching exists, but there's a lot of workplaces that do know about it now. And so they're offering their employees a little taste of, financial wellbeing and how they can improve their staff's financial wellbeing. Because just a side note, that if you're stressed financially, you're not as productive at work. And so employers obviously want the most out of you, and they want to take away some of that financial stress so that you can perform better at work, which benefits the business, of course. So love doing more of those in person and virtually as well, Australia-wide.
Absolutely. Now, Lexi, I can't thank you enough for the time that we spent on the call today. I mean, your life story and your experience is obviously testament that if you just do apply yourself, you literally would have the confidence in managing your finances. And so many people just really, like you said, ostrich in the sand, head in the sand type setup, and they just wait for it to figure itself out. And I've heard
no one is coming to save you.
I've heard this statement in Australia, Lexi, that says, she'll be all right, mate. And
Yeah.
I don't think it usually works out like that. But for those that are watching right now, as we wrap up, I just want to encourage you to reflect on your own financial journey. And if you faced, similar challenges to actually start your journey, I encourage you to reach out to Lexi and just check out what it is that she's doing. And hopefully this would enable you to actually have a happier existence. And while you're at it, don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show for more inspiring stories and practical advice like this. Because in our next episode, we're going to be exploring ideas on how to help you live a happier and healthier existence. And I'll be putting all those links to MoneyVine in the show notes so that you can connect with Lexi in there and get started on your financial journey. Okay. Until next time, stay curious and keep striving for excellence. Bye for now.